Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be reading this book, Mysteries of Easter Island. So let's just dive right in. Mysteries of Easter Island. Introduction: Encountering a mystery. Look at this great shot. On Easter of 1722, a fleet of 3 Dutch ships was exploring the southeastern Pacific Ocean. The fleet's commander, Jacob Roggeveen, was searching for an undiscovered continent that the Dutch thought might exist in the area. Instead, Roggeveen and his men spotted a small island. Roggeveen named it Easter Island. As the Dutch ships drew closer to the island, the sailors noticed smoke rising into the air. The smoke signaled that people were living there, but the island itself looked empty, with dry grass and few trees. When Roggeveen and his men came ashore, they met a community of perhaps 2,000 people. They also saw something that struck them with awe: hundreds of giant stone statues. The statues of Easter Island. The statues had enormous heads with large noses, staring eyes, and wide mouths. Many of the statues stood side by side along the island's coast. Their backs were to the sea, and their faces looked in toward the middle of the island. Roggeveen and his men had many questions. How had the islanders carved such enormous statues without metal tools? And how had they moved the giant stone carvings around the island? The islanders had few firm answers. Most stories about the statues had been lost or forgotten. The statues of Easter Island were one of the world's great unsolved mysteries. Chapter 1: A Mysterious History. Over the years, researchers called archaeologists have worked to excavate Easter Island to try to uncover its past and solve its mysteries. They have dug below the newer upper layers of soil and sand to get to the ancient layers below. There they have discovered some clues to Easter Island's past. Human settlement. Easter Island is a remote place. The closest continent, South America, is 2,237 miles away, or 3,600 kilometers away. Its closest neighbor, Pitcairn Island, lies 1,100 miles, or 1,770 kilometers away. So how did humans end up in such an isolated place? Archaeologists believe that the people who first settled the island came from Polynesia. This large cluster of islands is in the southern and central Pacific Ocean. It is not known exactly which island the people of Easter Island came from, but it may have been more than 3,000 miles, or 4,828 kilometers away. The ancient Polynesian people were skilled sea travelers. They built large, sturdy canoes that used sails. At some point, a group of traveling Polynesians found their way to Easter Island. Researchers have used radiocarbon dating to try to find out when. This scientific method measures carbon, an element present in the remains of living things such as bones, teeth, and hair. The amount of carbon in these remains goes down over time. This helps scientists determine how old the remains might be. Through radiocarbon dating, scientists found evidence that humans may have arrived at Easter Island as early as 400 CE, but other evidence suggested that humans didn't arrive until 800 or even 1200. Farmers, sculptors, and hunters, Whenever the island's newcomers did arrive, they entered a land covered in trees. The islanders were a farming people, so they cleared the trees from the island to grow crops. They also hunted the island's birds and sea animals for food. The new settlers thrived in their new home. Over time, their population may have reached as many as 20,000. At some point, the islanders discovered a source of stone in the crater of an old volcano. They used the stone to carve the mysterious giant statues. This activity might have started as early as 700. The last statues were likely made in the 17th century. By then, the islanders had made about 900 statues. A changed landscape. By the time Europeans arrived on the island, most of the island's trees had disappeared and fewer people lived there. Researchers are not sure why civilization on the island seems to have collapsed. One idea is that, with fewer trees, there were fewer roots to hold down the soil. Over time, wind eroded the soil and it became less fertile. The island became a dry grassland. The islanders likely used up the island's resources for food, and without enough food, the island's population also shrunk. Disease, warfare, and destructive rats may have also played a role. But while the trees and people disappeared, the mysterious statues remained. Chapter 2. Making Monuments. Over the last 100 years, archaeologists have wondered why the Easter Island statues were made, why they are so big, and why there are so many of them. The answers to these questions may never be fully understood, but through study, archaeologists have come up with some ideas. The purpose of the statues. Ancient Polynesians greatly respected their dead ancestors. They often built monuments to honor them, similar to modern gravestones. This was especially true of important chiefs or other leaders. Many of the monuments were made of wood, but some were made of stone. Many archaeologists believe that the Easter Island statues served a purpose similar to other Polynesian monuments. The large size of the statues may represent the importance of the ancestors they honored. Carving stone. The islanders probably built the statues inside an old volcano known as Rano Raraku. Ash from the volcano hardened to create stone that chipped away easily, making it ideal for sculpting. A person would still need sharp tools to carve it, though. The ancient islanders did not have any metal tools, but archaeologists have uncovered ancient stone tools, which means that the islanders knew how to make and use sharp chisels. One study revealed that 20 people could carve a statue in 1 year with stone tools. There's one of them right there. Chapter 3. Moving Monuments. These statues on Easter Island vary in size. On average, they weigh 14 tons, or 13 metric tons, and are 13 feet, or 4 meters tall. The largest statues are even bigger, up to 72 feet, or 22 meters tall, and 165 tons, or 150 metric tons. These statues are scattered around the island. About 1/3 were moved up to 11 miles, or 18 kilometers, from the volcano to the coasts. There they stand on stone platforms that the islanders also made. The rest of the statues appear to have been abandoned at the volcano or along ancient roads. Some archaeologists believe these statues may have been too difficult to move. Testing ideas. Over the years, people have come up with different ideas about how the giant statues were moved. They tested those ideas by trying to move the statues with these methods. Some of these experiments failed, but others showed how the islanders might have moved the statues. Tor Heyerdahl, an archaeologist from Norway, completed one of the most successful experiments during an expedition from 1955 to 1956. He attached a statue to a wooden sled. Then people pulled the sled with rope, which could have been made from native trees. This experiment showed that 180 people could move one of these smaller statues, but moving a big statue would take up to 1,500 people. There's Tor Heyerdahl. Walking statues. In 2011, American archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo decided to test another idea. They had been thinking about a famous Easter Island legend that says the statues had walked. The men wondered if this meant that the statues were moved in a way that was similar to walking. Lipo and Hunt used a replica of one of these smaller statues on Easter Island. It was 10 feet or 3 meters tall and weighed 5 tons or 4.5 metric tons. The two men organized small teams of people to move the statue. The teams pulled on a simple system of ropes attached to the upright statue. Their pulling moved the statue forward in a rocking motion. This motion made it look as if the statue was walking, and this method worked with as few as 18 people. Lipo and Hunt wrote about their findings in a book published in 2012. They believe their method makes more sense than Heyerdahl's, but no one has been able to prove exactly how the statues were moved. Chapter 4. Preserving History. In the late 19th century, Easter Island became part of Chile. To protect the statues from damage, Chile has turned the island into a national park called Rapa Nui National Park. Rapa Nui is what the native islanders called Easter Island. The island is home to about 5,000 people. About half are native islanders, the other half are Chileans. Recently, climate change on Earth has caused sea levels to rise. Higher seas mean higher waves lapping the shores of Easter Island. The waves are slowly eroding the ancient stone platforms that support the statues along the coasts. If the platforms erode too much, the statues will fall into the sea. Centuries of wind and rain have also damaged the statues throughout the island. Scientists have recently developed a chemical that preserves stone. Islanders and archaeologists are working to apply this chemical to the statues for protection. There's a picture of a statue that fell down. It's pretty sad. Look at this. I've been kind of skipping the boxes, but look, they uncovered this statue and it had a big ship carved into it. Very mysterious. Recording history. Archaeologists and islanders are also making a detailed record of every statue on the island. They write descriptions, take photographs, map the locations, and collect other archaeological information. They use both old tools, such as measuring tapes, compasses, and notebooks, and newer technologies, such as GPS, which is Global Positioning System, and other computer software. Archaeologists have learned a lot about Easter Island over the years, but some mysteries may never be completely solved. It sounds like my voice is trying to go out at the end there. So I'm just going to... Let's read this last one. It says Hunt and Lipo. I might just whisper this because it feels like my voice is going away. Hunt and